of the UN Food Systems Summit, which is currently taking place in Italy. And on the significance of this summit, we're delighted to be joined over the phone by Mr. Amr Abdelrahman, a journalist and political analyst. Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, Mr. Abdelrahman. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, hello and good afternoon to you, and hello to the dear viewers.
Welcome, sir. Thank you for joining us. Sir, what's the significance of the UN Food Systems Summit, which is currently taking place in Italy?
Oh, the pleasure is all mine. And of course, this very important international summit in Italy with the great participation of Mr. Mustafa Madbouli, our Prime Minister, comes in a very important timing. We are a country that taken a strategy that based upon our own independent decision and our own capability of producing our own food and completing what we need from abroad, either west or either east or the west. Without being followed to any of the important camps in east or the west. On the other hand, other countries are trying to act like Egypt. In Italy, it's time for countries like Egypt, led by the same strategy, independent decision, and a united strategy to confront the international crisis concerning food, and especially the crops of wheat and other crops like that strategic harvest. I believe we have already accomplished a lot along this strategy, and we have already covering our own needs in Egypt. At least with more than 91% this month, we have achieved this, and we are completing that small part with participation with our associates in Gulf countries like Emirates, like other countries like Russia and Ukraine, and taken that a very special way of leading our country without being followed to any other power in the whole world.
Right. Sir, the summit comes at a time amid the global challenges, and especially with regards to agri-food systems to provide nutrition and food for more sustainable life for not only for African states but around the world. Now, how far do you think the summit will be able to tackle the current food crisis?
Well, let's be frank here. Let's be honest with ourselves as countries. As the leaders of the country, not only the third world is suffering, the whole world is suffering. Europe is suffering. Europe is suffering because of the war that the NATO has ignited in Central Asia towards Russia. Mm-hmm. And of course, the nations are paying the price of the wrong political decision taken by the NATO, and forcing the people in Europe to suffer and to pay the price for such strong political decision and military actions. On the other hand, I believe that it's time for the whole world to separate from policy and the world needs and the world best interest, the nation's best interest. It's time for the UN to lead that trend, that strategy, to make a red line between the decision made by some countries and some leaderships like NATO and other powers in the world, and preventing people from paying the price and paying the price and suffering the consequence of such irrational decisions. This is the role that the UN should take. This is the role that an international organization should take the burden on his shoulder. I believe that it's time for the whole world to realize that the whole nations should realize and push the leaderships in Europe and even in Russia and other countries to stop the war and to start thinking about a better channels for commerce, especially about the crops and the food all over the world.
Right. Well, Mr. Abdurrahman, one of the main reasons for the current crisis is that aid agencies and also the UN and other aid agencies are unable to reach some parts of the world due to war and political unrest. So how far do you think this issue will be tackled during the conference and or the current summit taking place in Italy, and what are the expected solutions for this issue?
With due all respect for those aid organizations, I believe this is not the primary solution here. Their efforts are, of course, well recognized by the nations and the countries and the leaderships of the countries, but they can solve so little of the greater crisis. I believe that there should be a higher light and a higher line and a higher strategy that goes above the conflict of interest between the East and the West. And of course, this again is the role of the UN, not sending organizations to aid those who are about to die. They're not going to save millions this way. And of course, Africa, what is the most continent that is suffering from the colonial influence right now until today, commercial influence and commercial colonial influence that is already still taken the best of the continent, from gold, from uranium. We have all witnessed what happened in Sudan.
Yeah.
And of course, through some mercenary like Hameti. And of course, Egypt is taking the greater role in the continent to protect this continent from other forces, from either the West or the East. On both sides, this continent is our own national security, and we are the guardians of this continent, whether anyone like it or not. As well, of course, we are taking the lead of this strategy within our neighbors in Africa to have better crops, better production for our crops through common agricultural projects. We have already accomplished this with our nations in Africa to prevent those, to reduce the consequence, the bad consequence that the nations are paying for as for the greater conflicts in the world.
Right. Sir, the UN Children Agency also said that around 1.4 million children are suffering from severe malnutrition as famine looms in different parts of Africa, specifically Nigeria, Somalia, South Sudan, and also Yemen. Now, how far can the UN and other international organizations deal with such a crisis?
Well, again, with all due respect to the international efforts in this matter, I believe that the nations should take the strategy, the Egyptian strategy, the Egyptian recipe, to strengthen their independence of decision, and to create on their own soil their own production for agricultural projects. To cultivate more land. Do you know that in Sudan there are hundreds of millions of acres are ready to be cultivated, but they don't, just because of the conflict, the political conflict, and because of the international influences. This is the strategy that all the neighbors in in Africa, in Sudan, in Kenya, even in Ethiopia, wherever. This is the strategy, only the strategy that preserves the identity and the pride of the nation. And we are in Africa one of the ancient and greater civilization. We deserve this. The leaders in Africa should take the symbol and the model from Egypt. Have we had changed our strategy totally? And now we are cultivating the wheat and cotton crops.
Right. Well,
any other influences from abroad.
I would like to thank you very much, Mr. Amr Abdurrahman, our political analyst. Many thanks for your insight. And dear viewers, now we go back to our live transmission from the UN Food Systems Summit taking place currently in Italy.
গড়ে 11% বেশি হারে বৃদ্ধি পেয়েছে। বর্তমানে বিশ্বে বাংলাদেশ ধান ও মাছ উৎপাদনে তৃতীয়, পাট উৎপাদনে দ্বিতীয়, সবজি উৎপাদনে তৃতীয় এবং আলু উৎপাদনে ষষ্ঠ। বাংলাদেশের জিডিপিতে কৃষি খাতের অবদান